All right, let's get straight to it. We're not here to talk about those empty motivational quotes you see everywhere. Nope. Today, we're diving deep into the psychological source code that actually governs human behavior. Think of it as the ultimate blueprint for the mind.
And this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? See, this isn't about making a few minor tweaks here and there. We're talking about a full-blown upgrade to your mental operating system, getting you way beyond those factory default settings that have most people just running on autopilot.
So first things first, we gotta run a diagnostic. Let's break down the standard programming that most people are running on, And then we'll get into what it really means to operate with a totally different, way more powerful internal code. And here's the core of it. The real difference isn't about your IQ or how many books you've read. It's about this unseen intelligence. It's the ability to read the patterns all around you, to control your impulses instead of letting them control you, and to see those connections that everyone else just completely misses.
Okay, ready for our first upgrade? We're talking about the cognitive processor. Let's really get into the nuts and bolts of how a truly superior mind actually works.
There's this huge misconception about overthinking, and this slide lays it out perfectly. Look, intelligent people absolutely overthink, for sure. But they do it strategically, not anxiously. They're playing mental chess, like 10 moves ahead, exploring all these layers of possibility. Anxious thinking, on the other hand, that's just being stuck on a carousel, going in circles, replaying the exact same fears over and over again.
And this leads to something really powerful. Have you ever noticed that the smartest person in the room is often the quietest one? Well, it's not because they have nothing to say. Far from it. They're busy doing something called mental editing. They're running simulations in their head, refining their ideas, processing everything internally before they even open their mouth. That silence you hear? That's the sound of high-level processing at work.
And this just perfectly illustrates a huge difference. The three most powerful words an intelligent person can say are "I don't know." It's a sign of strength, not weakness. See, smart people value accuracy way more than their own ego. They get the limits of their knowledge. It's the complete opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people who know the least are often the most confident.
All right, next up, we're installing some new social software. This whole section is about flipping your entire social paradigm on its head, moving away from constantly seeking approval to a place where you just naturally command attention and respect.
So here's the million-dollar question. Where does your sense of value come from? Is it internal or is it external? Because people with real, intrinsic self-worth, they don't need a digital mirror like social media to tell them who they are. A massive psychological shift happens the moment you stop needing that constant validation from the outside world to feel complete. Okay, check this out. Here is a simple but ridiculously powerful psychological tool, the 1-second pause. Seriously, the next time someone asks you a question, just wait. For 1 single second before you answer. That tiny delay creates this psychological tension. It signals that you're actually thinking about your words, and it makes whatever you say next feel instantly more impactful. Try it.
Listen, not everything is meant to be shared. Keeping some things private is a huge source of psychological power. For example, when you talk about your big plans, you get this little dopamine hit that tricks your brain into feeling like you've already done it. And revealing your deepest weaknesses to the wrong people, that's not vulnerability, my friend. That's a strategic mistake. Same goes for your income, that just invites judgment, or your good deeds, which kind of lose their meaning when you cash them in for social points.
This brings us to the highest level of social intelligence, interpersonal sensitivity. It's the ability to read what is not being said, to see the invisible data in any interaction. Now, look, unlocking these codes is an ongoing process. If you want to keep getting these mental upgrades and go even deeper into this stuff, now is a great time to hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps.
All right, let's go deeper. It's time to start debugging your inner code. Those old legacy programs from your past that are secretly running your life right now? Does this phrase hit home for you? If it does, it's so important to understand what's happening psychologically. It's usually not a desire to die. It's a sign of what we call mental exhaustion from continuity, that deep, profound fatigue that comes from being constantly on, constantly functional, constantly vigilant. It's a sign that you don't need another motivational speech, you need real, guilt-free rest. What you might see as your greatest strength, that fierce independence, could actually be a program written by trauma. Just look at this. Hyper-independence isn't a personality trait, it's a survival mechanism. It's when you learned you can only rely on yourself. And same with hypervigilance. That extreme sensitivity to someone's tone of voice, that's a skill you had to learn in an unstable environment where you were constantly scanning for danger. We live in a world that's obsessed with big social circles, right? So having just a few friends can feel like you're failing. But psychologically, it can actually be a sign of high intelligence. A lot of really smart people have what's called a low social reward sensitivity. They just don't get that dopamine hit from small talk and shallow friendships. They crave quality over quantity, and they can spot insincerity a mile away.
Okay, it's time. Let's install the cheat codes. These are the practical, hands-on applications that are going to integrate all of these upgrades. We're turning all this theory into a new, functional operating system you can use every single day.
So get this, 90 seconds. That's the biological lifespan of an emotion. A feeling like anger, as a chemical reaction in your body, only lasts for about a minute and a half. If you're angry for longer than that, it's because you are choosing, consciously or not, to keep replaying the story in your head that triggered it. You are literally feeding the emotion. So the cheat code is simple. Recognize the feeling and just let that 90-second wave pass without grabbing onto the story.
Next time your mind is just racing with anxiety, try this simple neurological trick. Seriously, it works. Just gently move your eyes from left to right for about 30 seconds. This action actually mimics what your brain does during REM sleep. It helps get both sides of your brain talking to each other, which lets your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, take back control from your panicked emotional brain. It's basically a manual override switch. You know, we always think we need to feel motivated before we can act. But neuroscience shows it's the complete opposite. Action creates motivation. And the 2-minute rule is the perfect way to hack the system. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it immediately. Finishing that tiny task gives you a little hit of dopamine, which creates this positive feedback loop that then motivates you to tackle the bigger stuff.
So at the end of the day, the ultimate goal here isn't just knowing a bunch of cool psychological tricks. It's about embodying them. It's about truly understanding that your emotions are just data, they're not directives. Your past is information. It's not a life sentence. Real awareness isn't about trying to look smart. It's about finally learning to see clearly.
Look, the world is just full of noise. True power isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being able to see the signals hidden behind all that noise. It's the ability to pause, to see the program that's running inside you, and then to consciously choose your response. So I'll leave you with this question. What default setting are you going to rewrite first?